Time Rich Masterclass, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys can hear me. Welcome to this Time Shifters Masterclass. It's good to see everybody here. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys can hear me. All right. Welcome to the quarter 4 series of the Time Shifters Masterclass. I'm so excited to share this with you guys. So, like I said, put a 1 in the chat if you guys can hear me okay. Oh. Mic check 1 2, mic check 1 2. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Happy Thursday. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys can hear me, if my audio is clear. Want to make sure that the audio is good. Perfect. Awesome. What is going on? Ladies and gentlemen? Happy Thursday. I hope all is well. Put your location in the chat so I can see where you guys are calling from. Would love to see where you guys are tuning in from. And we are going to get started here shortly. Make sure my audio is good. Okay, North Bay. Okay, nice. ATL. Perfect. Well, appreciate you guys tuning in. So welcome to the Time Shifters Masters class. My agenda for today in our small amount of time together is to give you the low effort strategies that will provide high impact in your life and your business. And my chief aim is to create confidence where there was once uncertainty and to eliminate confusion and replace it with clarity. All right. I'm going to be showing you exactly what I do, when I do it, and how I do it personally in my life and in my business. And I want you at the bare minimum to be able, at the bare minimum, give you the tangible tactics you can use to reclaim your time and ultimately make more money in your life. But it's also a two-way street, right? Y'all know me. I'm always about giving game and the best content, but nothing hurts more than when I give somebody the information, I give somebody the game, and they let it go to waste. So I promise to give you my best, but all I ask in return is that y'all do the same. And put a 1 in the chat or put a yes in the chat if we can go forward with this agreement. We got a few more people here. Awesome. Like I said, type yes in the chat. I need to know. I need you all to make a promise to me that if I show you truly these secrets to success, you promise to execute on them. That's all I ask. All right. So let me make sure that I can. There we go. Perfect. I think that is it. Okay, I'm just getting my screen together here, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We got a few more people joining. All right, perfect. All right, so let's get right into it. So today I'm going to be teaching you guys the 3 no BS secrets to becoming time rich, quitting your 9-to-5, and building a 7-figure business that lasts. If you can click a mouse, you can fire your boss, okay? I have had dozens of students who have become successful just with the very tactics that I'm going to be teaching you here today. And those students, honestly, they have invested in themselves, but you guys are going to be able to learn this information for absolutely free here today. And I'm just super excited to share it with you. All right. So give me a 1 in the chat if you are new to the entrepreneur space. Give me a 2 in the chat if you've been an entrepreneur for more than 2 years. Give me a 3 in the chat if you are an employee. I'm just trying to get a quick temp check because ultimately, I want to be able to give you guys the proper blueprint and know who I'm talking to. Awesome. Let's see here. There we go. Perfect. All right. So new to entrepreneurship. Okay, cool. So would you like to know the exact blueprint showing what the top 1% of entrepreneurs are doing differently than the other 99% are not for absolutely free, put a yes in the chat if you guys are down for that. Because I'm going to be going into some game here, guys. I'm going to really be, spicing it up for y'all here. All right, let's get into it. So I'm going to be giving you guys the secrets from the top 1%. So here's some game that I wanted to share with you guys. For a couple, right, around $500,000, $500,000 is the cutoff for the top 1% of household income earners in America. And the cutoff for a single male or female is 357,000. Okay, so let's just think about it just like this, right? So anytime I show you numbers, it's not to boast, brag, or showboat. It's just to show you what's possible if you execute on the information and just to give you a reason to listen to anything that I'm saying. All right. So ultimately, now when I show you numbers, it's just to, again, to impart upon you. But when you really think about it, right, when you think about your time and how valuable it is, right? Have you ever heard the adage, if I gave you $1 million, right, you'd probably take it. But if I gave you $1 million and told you that you wouldn't be able to wake up tomorrow, you probably wouldn't take that money. And what does that mean? Ultimately, that means is you value your time more than money. And that's part of the secrets of the top 1% of earners in the world, right? The next secret is, using the same methods that I'm showing you here, I'm going to be teaching you here. I've been able to be booked to speak at Macy's. They recently booked me there to speak to their entire staff this year. And it's been absolutely incredible, right? Just being able to teach. I got to teach about 400 people. And it changed my life, honestly. And I know it changed their lives because I had people coming up to me after, and that's what kind of, led me to creating this masterclass for you guys. I've been able to travel around the world to UNESCO protected sites. Behind me there is a mountain, a glacier on top of a mountain with a glacier behind it in Peru. And, it's just been being time rich has allowed me to have these time freedoms and to really show up for myself and set the bar high and just, again, be time rich. Now, part of the secrets of top 1%, I've been able to continuously, educate and teach. If you guys are familiar with any of the people in the photo, that's David Shands from Sleep is for Suckers podcast. That is him 500 and Alex Good Energy. Those are some really incredible educators and influencers here in the city of Atlanta. And you guys could go look them up, but they are pretty prominent and they know what they're talking about. And I've been able to share this information with them to the point where, I'm here now sharing it with you guys. All right. So we are about to get started. All right. Put a yes in the chat if you are ready to get started and rocking and rolling. All right. Put a yes in the chat. Let's get it. Okay, perfect. Love to see it. So before we start, guys, I invite you to take a breath. All right. I'm sure we've all had a long day, no matter where we are. And, it's 7:00 here in Atlanta. I know I've had a long day. So first and foremost, I invite you before we get started to take a breath, so let's exhale completely. Okay. Inhale through your nose. Exhale. All right, we're going to inhale that positive energy. Let's inhale again. Exhale all of the things that do not serve us. Forgetting all the BS that we dealt with during our day. Now, one more time, breathe in an intention for yourself for this masterclass. Exhale. Awesome. I don't know about you guys, but that felt really good for me. So before we move forward, I want to go over some house rules. I do have some house rules to cover. So feel free to grab a paper and pen, something to write with and a piece of paper, because I like to say note takers are money makers. All right. Next is pause everything else. We don't want anything distracting you from this life-changing information on Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, whatever it is. Next is put your phone on do not disturb, right? We don't want your boss, Uncle Ray, your high school teacher, your pet giraffe calling you and distracting you from this life-changing information. Next is, save your questions for the end. I know for a fact that you're going to have a ton of questions because there's a ton to cover. And because we have a lot of information to go over, I don't want you to distract myself or anybody else in the class. So I invite you to hold your questions until the end because I will be doing a live Q&A session at the end. All right. And I'm super excited to share that with you guys. Also, when you stay until the end, right, I'm going to be giving everyone a free gift. So I don't care how many of you guys are in here, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 500, there's going to be a free gift at the end of this valued around $500. Okay. So you stay until the end and you're going to be given a free gift valued at $500. And like I said, I don't care how many people are in here, you're going to be getting that gift. All right. So shout out to my guy, Little John. Let's go. We outside. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get right into it. So let's get into the 3 no BS secrets to becoming time rich, quitting your 9-to-5, and building a 7-figure business that lasts. And if you can click the mouse, you can fire your boss. Like I said, so I have 2 agendas for today. My main and number 1 agenda is to give you the 3 no BS secrets, right? And then full transparency, my second agenda is to sell you something life-changing. But I demand that I demand that you don't buy anything from me if I don't deliver on this big, bold, and kind of audacious promise, right? To becoming time rich, quitting your 9-to-5, and building a 7-figure business that lasts. But if I do somehow, some way, by a stroke of luck in the grace of God himself, deliver on that promise, you should feel obligated to investing in yourself and your future if it's a good fit for you and you enjoy my teaching style. Do we have a deal? Drop a 1 or a yes in the chat if we have a deal. See what you got. Awesome. All right. So first and foremost, I want you guys to be able to get into a mindset of getting to the next level. And if that's you, if you are in the mindset of getting to the next level, type I receive it in the chat. If you're receiving that, I want you guys to put it in the chat. So I don't want you guys to just take it from me. This is Janine, one of my clients. I worked with her and her company, and we were able to scale it 200% in 90 days. So if you guys don't know what that is, imagine going from starting point at 1 to 200 very quickly, rapidly in your business over 90 days. If you think about that, we were able to train her and her real estate team on the very strategies and hacks that I'm going to be training you guys on here today. So if you're receiving that, you're going to be one of the people that comes into this masterclass and then wakes up with the ability to have more time in their life and more money in their account than they did before they came into this masterclass with. And that's possible when you listen to this information and you take advantage of the opportunity I'm going to be presenting to you guys later. All right. So who am I? So I am David Denver Marisme, founder of Mind Management Academy. I'm a mindset coach. I'm a multi-entrepreneur, speaker, and author. And, just to give you guys a little background on me, this is me and my mom on the left when I was about 2 or 3 years old. I've been stylish, you know what I mean? In the middle, that's me at my 5th birthday. I'm just like, when I look back at that and I look at now, it makes so much sense. But that's me and my mom, and that's me, being crowned as the king that I am, and then to the right, that's me honoring the late great Nipsey Hussle, at InvestFest last year, at the All Money In truck. And, I've been able to start, grow, and scale 6-figure businesses, such as my first one, which was my entertainment company, Clockwork Records, which is a household name in independent music. This is me at one of my first sold out shows with Ill Gates. I've been fortunate to build my entertainment company, my management company. So I had a management company operating logistics for big business, small business, Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 companies called Inner Workings Management. And I've also been able to scale a 6-figure multifamily real estate consulting firm called Inner Workings Property Solutions. So the strategies and frameworks I'm going to teach you today is not from what I think or is in theory. This is what works, okay? So I started my journey back in 2016, and since then, I've been able to host and perform in front of small crowds to performing in front of over 15,000 people at my biggest show ever, where I am now, speaking at youth centers and, meeting with some of the most impactful people of our generation. And this is one of those, how it started versus how it's going kind of photo journeys. And, on the top left here, this is, me when I started out with like my small crew and And then in the middle is, you know, how like that same, like a different small crew, but as you could see, it started to grow. And then this is me performing literally in front of 15,000 people. This was absolutely life changing. And then this is now, you know, me more recently speaking at a youth center. And these are me meeting some of my idols here, you know, some of the people that have influenced me to want to become an educator and do essentially take what I've learned from, you know, these experiences and then bringing them to a different audience, you know? So put a fire in the chat if you've ever seen one of these people, or you can resonate with a long journey, because that's what's important, not the destination. The journey is what's most important. Okay. Oh, appreciate that. Appreciate that. Absolutely. So yeah, put a fire in the chat. You know, if you can resonate with that long journey, would love to see that. Moving on. So I've been able to take what I've learned in my experiences and start teaching massive crowds. So I've had the ability and the honor to teach over 1,000 students, you know. So this is me teaching a men's workshop here in Georgia. And this was absolutely life-changing as well. You know, every time I have the ability to teach and impart what I've learned and the systems and techniques and strategies that I've come up with to teach others, listen, it's such an honor to be able to do that. And then, you know, this is throwback to when I was building a team, maybe 2016, 2017, you know, everybody's got my merch on, you know. And it's been an incredible journey, you know, being able to take what I've learned in these experiences and share them with you guys, and be able to impart them on you guys. And then, you know, this is me here at another one of my sold out events. But, you know, at my events, I also, you know, after we got done performing, I would do a little bit of teaching. And then this is me teaching about 90 people. I did a free pop-up event last year, and I got to teach a bunch of people the same strategies and techniques I'm going to be teaching here today. Now, I like to first and foremost think being a time-rich entrepreneur, right? The accomplishments and the accolades are cool, but honestly, you know, can I share my why with you guys? Like, drop a yes in the chat if I can share my ultimate why with you guys. Awesome, awesome. So my why is that I'm doing this for something that's bigger than myself, because the information I'm about to share with you not only allowed me to purchase my mother a home, right? That's me and my lovely mother in her new home in Florida. It also has allowed me to pay off my grandparents' debt. Like, this information that I'm sharing with you literally allowed me to purchase my mother a home and pay off my grandparents' debt. And those are my grandparents, whom I love very, very much. You know, I would go to the ends of the earth for them. And, you know, they're still very much so present in my life. And then this is my mom, my sister in their new home in Florida, you know. And I invite you, and I need you to write down today's date in the chat, and write down the name of the person or people that you're doing this for, even if it's for yourself, right? The reason that you want to change and you want to get to the next level and you want to become time rich, because this is going to be your public declaration that you're going to do anything that it takes and take the advantage of any opportunity that presents itself to get that person or people in a better situation than they are right now at this very moment. So I invite you to, you know, put that person's name down, write it down, you know, again, even if it's yourself, right? Because we have to learn to manifest for ourselves so we can manifest for the people that we love in our lives, okay? So I want you to pretend that you just wired me $7,000. And the reason why I say that is because not everybody was as lucky as you to get this information for absolutely free. I've had clients pay me recurring, you know, investments of $7,000 for this information. There are people who have paid me $1,000, $3,500 to help them start on their journey, and again, $7,000 to help coach them and their business, right? And these are just some screenshots here. And you know, I want you to imagine that you did that, because you know why? When people pay, they pay attention, right? They pay attention. So I invite you to set again an intention with yourself before we get into this conversation, because if you don't have one, I invite you to set the intention to give more attention to yourself, because you know you deserve it, right? Now, I want to talk to you guys what I, you know, touched on a little bit earlier, which is the time is money paradox, right? I say that to say, you know, time is infinitely more valuable than money, right? And let's go through a hypothetical, right? Like I said earlier, if I gave you all the time in the world, but in return, you can never make any more money, would you take it? I'm actually very curious. Drop in the chat Yes or no, if you would take it before we continue. I actually want to, know from you guys if you would. Love that. Love that, Shane. Absolutely. I love that, brother. I love that. Yeah, no, definitely, Kai. Just feel free. But just what's the first answer to come to mind? Don't even think about it, right? Like, because at the end of the day, we all, for the most part, react emotionally already. So what's the first thing that comes to mind, right? Like, if you were given all the time in the world, but you could never make any more money, what would you do? Would you say yes or would you say no? First thing that comes to mind. Don't think about it. Okay. All right, Shane. Love that. Love that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I love that. Now, let's put it on the flip side, right? But what if I said I'll give you $1 million, right? But you wouldn't wake up tomorrow. Would you take that? Yes or no? Put a yes and no in the chat. Okay? Okay? Absolutely. Absolutely. Not a chance. Exactly. So the point here is that time is finite. It's a non-renewable resource, unlike money. You can always make more money, but you can't make more time. And this fact is the scarcity that makes time fundamentally more precious than money. All right. So most of you are in a place that I call the gap, right? You know where you are and you know where you want to be, but you don't know how to get there, right? And that's the issue, right? Because when I say from my own experience, right? Give me a yes in the chat if you are here because you want to know how to get from where you are to where you want to be, right? And I'm here to tell you that there's a surefire way to do so. So put that one in the chat, put that yes in the chat, excuse me, right? Because that's why you're here, right? You want to have the ability to know to get from where you are to where you want to be. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So the bridge on how to get to from where you are to where you want to be is to become time rich and become free, right? Because at the end of the day, when you have your time, when you're able to really reclaim your time, you're able to dictate how you show up to life and how you do things in your life, right? And so for me, the big aha was, you're here probably for two reasons, right? I've talked to a lot of people about this, and most people want to be time rich because they've learned that money without time is just another prison, right? They want to create, not just consume. They want to be present for the people who matter most, right? They want their impact to outlast their exhaustion, and they want peace, not just progress. And the two I've heard the most is that you want to build a better, less stressful life for yourself, right? And number two is that you want to build generational wealth for your family, right? And if you want to build generational wealth for your family, you have to have systems in place to do so no matter what. So the systems and frameworks I'm sharing with you, you have to implement, okay? And so, I wanted to share with you guys another part of my why. A lot of people ask me why I give this game and drop these gems. And to be honest, there are a few reasons. So there's a few reasons, and some of which I've already shared with you. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you have a 9 to 5, you run a business, or you don't run a business, because if you do, then I know this opportunity will change everything for you. And if you don't have any bad habits, and you are a clean slate for us to be able to build on, right? That's number one. And let us be honest, right? With the advent of AI and all of these layoffs, right? The reason why I'm doing this is we were never taught how to build a business or become an entrepreneur, right? Or invest. The future, like, if you're not an investor, the future isn't looking bright. I'm just being honest, right? Like, you got to be able to learn how to build something for yourself, be an entrepreneur, and understand, how to be time rich ultimately. And then, I just want to give you guys some facts here, right? With all these tech layoffs, and if you guys look here, you can see that this was literally about a week ago, right? On October 23rd, Meta, Amazon, Google, and other major IT firms, informational technology firms, are having massive AI related job cuts, right? And no one with the job is safe right now. If you don't have a business, understand entrepreneurship, understand how to invest in yourself, or even have time management, the future is not looking bright. I'm just being honest. If the biggest companies are laying employees off, what do you think is going to happen to the smaller mom and pop companies, the mom and pop shops, right? So another reason why I'm hosting this is that everyone is teaching you to do this. Everyone is teaching you to do something this and that. Most of it's fluff, right? And the reason I say that is, it's full of people that are not doing what they say that they do, and then taking advantage of good people like yourself. No one is showing you how to do the right things to become the person that you desire to be, to get the things that they're teaching you about, right? And I just felt like I needed to do something about this, because someone that actually, does this, on a day-to-day basis, I'm doing what I'm teaching you here on a day-to-day basis, and I just got tired of seeing good people get taken advantage of. I see gurus all the time selling how to get rich this and money that, and no one talks about who you have to become to maintain the new person that you are. Does that sound fair? Does that make sense to you guys? Drop a 1 in the chat if that makes sense for you guys. I know I'm flowing along here. Awesome. Right. And so another reason why I'm doing this is because ultimately, my social media has been growing pretty rapidly, and I haven't been able to get back to everybody, right? So my social media has been growing so rapidly here. And because I literally have over 99 DM requests, so I decided to bring my trainings to the masses, to where I'm talking to a group of people at once, because I physically cannot respond to every single person. Does that make sense? So I don't care if you have a business or you don't. If you do, like I said, this opportunity will change your life and everything for you. And if you don't have any bad habits that, we have to be able to get out of the way. You're essentially a clean slate. Another reason why I'm doing these master classes, right, is because I want you to be able to date me before you marry me, right? My mentor always tells me that if someone can't teach you something for free, right, you shouldn't have to pay them for anything, right? And ultimately, excuse me here, guys. Let me make sure. Okay, that's fine. If we can be mindful of what we write on the screen here, that'd be awesome. But yeah, so, I want you guys to be able to marry me before you date me, right? My mentor always taught me, if someone can't teach you something for free, right, they shouldn't be able, excuse me, guys. Hold on. Give me 1 second here. Let's see. Let's see here. I want to be able to. Okay, yeah, if we could be mindful of what we're writing on the screen here, how we're. But yeah, let's get back to it. Okay, so I want you guys, again, to be able to date me before you marry me, and if someone can't teach you something for free, you shouldn't pay them to teach you anything. Does that make sense? So ultimately, I want you to be able to see how my free education is. Guys, if we could be mindful of how we're touching our screen, I'd really appreciate it. Give me 1 second here, guys. Bear with me. Okay, there we go. All right, that should be good. Awesome. All right, cool. Now, to get back into the sauce, okay? I want you to be able to see how my free education is like, what my free education is like before you choose to make an investment in us. And then when you make a smaller investment in us, you could be someone that we end up partnering with in the future. Does that make sense? So this is the same information that I've been able to share with graduating students at Mercer University, right? This year, they hired me to speak to their graduating class, their alumni, and their staff. And I was honored to do so, really share this information with them. And, this is also me, continuing to share that information with them. And it was absolutely incredible, And now I'm here to show it to you, right? Which is the low effort strategies that will provide you high impact in your business and in your life in general. My number one aim, like I said earlier, is to create confidence where there was once uncertainty, and to eliminate confusion and replace it with clarity. I'm going to show you the exact blueprint of what I do personally, when I do it, and how I do it in my business. And at the bare minimum, give you the tangible tactics that you can use to go and make money today. Go and reclaim your time today. But like I said, it's definitely a two-way street. So I need you to give me your best. And all I ask is that you give me your best in return. Give me a yes in the chat if you agree. Let me see those yeses rolling in. Give me a yes in the chat if you guys agree. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna move on here. So before we start, right, I need you guys to send this to your friends, your group chats, because ultimately, if you guys can party with your friends, turn up with your friends, right? Before we start, I invite you to share this link, this Zoom call with your friends, your sister, your parrot, your pet dog, and all the group chats that you're in, because if you can turn up with them, let's not gatekeep, right? You can learn with them too. So I'm going to be dropping the group chat. I'm going to be dropping the link to the group chat here for you guys, and you can share this with 3 people. All right. Put a 3 in the chat after you guys have shared this information, shared this link. I'm going to try to get this, while you guys do that, I'm going to try to get this mark off the screen here. Let's see. All right, an eraser. Okay, cool. Awesome. Sweet. Yeah, let's not gatekeep this information, right? Because, information should be free at the end of the day, guys, right? Like, because we live in such an era with AI and the advent of it, like we're living in such an incredible time, a renaissance right now, and let's not gatekeep this information. So, feel free to drop a, 3 in the chat after you've shared this with, your group chats. Like I said, your friends, your sister, your brother, your mom, your pet dog, your parrot, your goldfish, want to make sure I get this information to the right people. And it is an honor to share this information with y'all. Sweet. Awesome. I see the 3s rolling in. Okay, gotcha. See the 3s rolling in. See them rolling in. Cool. All right, perfect. So waiting for a few more 3s here. Come on, guys. Let's not gatekeep. You know what I mean? Let's not gatekeep. Let's be the ones that, that are the ones that share this information, and our friends are going to be like, yo, like, we want to be able to turn up with our friends, but also add value to our friends. All right. So moving along. So first and foremost, we're going to cover the first limiting belief, right? How to reclaim your time and go from where you are to starting a business and becoming a time-rich entrepreneur for absolutely free. That's going to be the first thing we're going to be covering. And that's going to be secret number 1. Okay. Secret number 2 is going to be the second limiting belief, which is how to make this work for anyone and have them quit their 9 to 5 for absolutely free. And then the third limiting belief is going to be using the time compass to reclaim 10 hours a week or more of your time and start any business for absolutely free. So I want you guys to drop which one of the secrets you are most hyped for. 1, 2, or 3. Which secret are you most hyped for? I want to get a little, temp check on the room, so we can understand who's who and what people are most excited for. Number 2, okay, love it. Number 3, love it. Awesome. Well, we're gonna get into all the sauce, guys. All right, so awesome. All right, so first and foremost, just to let you guys know, for those that are just joining, we're going to be going over the 3 no BS secrets to becoming time rich, quitting your 9 to 5, and building a 7-figure business that lasts. Because if you can click a mouse, you can fire your boss. All right. So remember in the beginning when I told you, why I got started. Well, I'm going to give you some background where secret number 1 started. All right. So this is me and my brother on the left, my brother Ibrahim. I think we were about I think he was 1 or 2. I had to have been 5 or 6 in this photo. So, that he's definitely one of the reasons. And then there's the queens in my family, to the left there, that's my grandmother. In the middle, that's my mom. And then right next to me is my younger sister, Immaculate, and my mom came to this country, to the United States, at 21. She had me 4 years later at 25, and she worked her behind off. Okay. She had my brother, my sister, and I, but never seemed to have any time to invest with us because she was always busy, trying and doing her best to support us, and because I'm the firstborn amongst all my siblings and cousins, I knew right early on that it would be my responsibility to take care of the rest of my family and the next generation to come. Okay. And so this is where it started for me. Right. And so again, remember in the beginning, I told you I had an entertainment company, Glockwork Records. Well, it all started in 2016, right before I turned 20, right? If you can see here, this is my first LLC, June 21st, which is the summer solstice, longest day of the year, 2016, Glockwork Records, right? And it's wild to look back at that because that was almost a decade ago, guys. Can you believe that, right? And so when I first started my LLC at 19, I learned to get around, other entrepreneurs. I started studying the game. I built and joined a tech marketing company at 21, and I started to study business as much as I could. I got around industry leaders. I studied, I networked, and just became a student of the game to be able to learn how to play the game, right? It's just like if you want to learn how to break the rules, you got to learn how the rules work first, right? So I took what I learned. I built a team around my entertainment company. Like, this is the photo that I showed you guys here earlier. And I was very proud of this team. This team was like my go-to, man. They would get everything done because I was able to delegate. I learned how to really, share what I learned with a team and how to become time rich, Let's see. Awesome. And then, things started to progress pretty quickly, right? Because to be honest, I was blessed with the opportunity to manage Messinian, who's the biggest voice in independent music. And he actually ended up becoming one of my mentors. This is Lost Lands. This is the first year that it happened in 2017. And literally, guys, let me tell you, this changed my life. Not only was it on my birthday weekend, right? But I was able to get around the biggest names in independent music. And I started managing Messinian around that time. So if you see here, Messinian, this is around 10 years ago. He had 1.1 million views on YouTube, 10 years ago. 3.6 million views 9 years ago. 4 million views 14 years ago. And I was simply a student to the game, right? I kept my head low and I kept getting in the right rooms, all right? And so I knew I was competing with other entertainment companies who had way bigger budgets than I did. And they were earning way more money than I could at the time because they had one thing. They had better systems. But you know what? I started creating my own and bringing people together. This is actually a photo from my first sold out event. I believe I was like 22, 23 at the time. And, I had my mother, work the door. She was the one collecting all the money and everything like that. And, I have to say this is one of my proudest moments because when my mom worked that door, she never asked me when I was going back to college. I swear to God, y'all, right? If you see how many people are back here, this was a sold out show. There was about 500-600 people in the room, I started touring Orlando and, just really getting my brand, Glockwork Records and Inner Workings Management out to the world. And then as that progressed and as that grew, right, it started to grow bigger and bigger, right? I started scaling to the first year that I made $100,000, right? Like it was crazy, right? I started doing local tours. So this was my first local tour. It's called the Alter Egos Tour in 2017. And then the Glocks and Roses Tour. So if you see the difference in just 2 years, guys, I was literally able to scale almost 200%, right? Like the amount of dates that were on here to the amount of dates that were on here doubled, right? And literally every event that you see here where it says GWR Showcase, I was able to build a system and went from doing local shows and local events to doing countrywide events, all right? Now, moving forward, I started building my own systems, allowing me to scale to the point where I started to get noticed by other venues who were asking me to host my events there. Keep in mind, some of these events and some of these venues were doing $100K a month. So I kept consistent at it, learned everything that I could, and started teaching this to new venue owners and promoters. Now, that allowed me to understand that I had to have a system. And, type a yes in the chat if you want to know what system stands for. I want to get a temp check. Type a 1 in the chat or a yes in the chat if you want to know what system stands for. Okay? All right. I see a few of them rolling in. Perfect. Okay. Type a yes or 1 in the chat. All right. Perfect. So system stands for saving yourself time, energy, and money. Okay. And that's what I started doing. I started literally building a system to saving yourself time, energy, and money. All right. Now, according to Slack, right, we waste about 3 weeks of work every single week, every single year, because we don't have systems, right? Every single year, we are wasting weeks away of just nothingness because we don't have a system, right? And many businesses are losing time through manual data entry and disorganized information system. Employees right now are spending up to 20 hours a week on repetitive and scattered tasks. So what do you think that does, right? These hidden inefficiencies drain resources and limit growth potential. Meanwhile, right, this is the other side of that, y'all. Meanwhile, global entrepreneurship is expanding rapidly. By 2030, the entrepreneurship market is projected to reach $5.5 trillion. Okay? I want to put that in perspective. $5.5 trillion. That's not 100,000. That's not 100. That's not 1 million, right? That's not 100 million. That's not 100 billion. That's $5.5 trillion, which is a massive opportunity and the urgent need for streamlined systems to reclaim time and scale efficiently and scale effectively. With this information, what do you think the right time to become an entrepreneur is, right? The right time to become an entrepreneur and to become time rich is. What do you think is the right time? I want to see if you guys are following me. I want you to put in the chat what you think the right time is to become an entrepreneur and to become time rich is. Exactly. See, I knew y'all are smart bunch. Exactly, right? So now, right now is the best time to get started, right? We know in the past, there's never been a time where there's been more AI jobs than people working them. And in the future, there's going to be more AI and robots doing jobs than there are employees. There has always been more employees than there have been jobs. But jobs are slowly becoming a thing of the past, and that's why you're here. And you're tired of allowing Black Friday to go by, all of these different sales holidays to go by, and you're seeing all these other people making and producing money. Meanwhile, you're going and consuming and spending all of your hard-earned money that you traded your time for. You paid your time for that. So you're here because you want to become a producer in your life and for the rest of this year rather than a consumer, okay? So let's get to the gems, y'all. Let's get to the gems. Let's get to the sauce. Let's get to the gems. All right. So secret number 1, how to reclaim your time and go from where you are to starting a business and becoming a time-rich entrepreneur, right? But before we get started, I need you to do me a favor though, right? If I show you this, you have to promise that you won't use your new powers for evil, okay? You have to promise me that you won't use your new powers for evil, because before I show you my magical powers, I need you to put a yes in the chat, right? Before I show you my magical powers, right? Can you do that for me? I need you to put a yes in the chat. Perfect. Okay. I need you to make sure you won't use. I need you to make sure you will not use your newfound powers for evil. Okay. Because ultimately we have to find somebody to model. It's very important, right? Now, what do you think that, have you ever asked yourself, right? Like what people like Oprah, Jay-Z, Jeff Bezos, have you ever asked yourself, like, because they have the same 24 hours in a day, why they've been able to accomplish so much, right? Well, what if I told you that these 3 people and you have a lot more in common than you previously thought? You probably call me crazy, right? Well, let me paint a picture here for you, right? You have to audit your time and leverage your time successfully, right? Are you used to-do lists that never get done? Like, what if I told you that all you have, like, literally, what if I told you that you have all the time in the world in your life? Like, what would your life look like? We kind of went over it a little bit earlier, right? Like, if you were told that you would never be able to have money again, but you would be able to have all the time in the world, right? I'm sure you would have to learn how to audit that time and leverage your time more successfully, okay? So now, this is one of the most impactful parts right here. I need you guys to take notes, okay? This is called the time shifters formula. I need you to remember this formula. It's the one that saved my life personally, right? And it's one that we use every single day, but people seem to overlook, right? And so it's called the time shifters formula, right? It's T times DOTW equals AA. And you're probably like, what is that? Well, thanks for asking. I'm here to tell you. T is the time that it takes to do said activity multiplied by DOTW, which is days of the week. Okay. This, once you get those two things, right, this equates to your activity average, which is the amount of time said activity takes to do. So I'm going to give you an example, right? Take 8 hours a day, which is the time that it takes for the average person to work, and you're going to multiply that times DOTW, which is 5 days a week, right? So 8 hours a day times 5 days a week equals your activity average, your AA. That's going to equal 40-hour work week, right? Put a 1 in the chat if this is making sense. I want to make sure that you guys understand that this is absolutely crucial. Before we move any further, I need to see everybody in the chat dropping a 1 and a yes to make sure that this makes sense. We are not going to move forward until we do. We can sit here, guys. Come on. I need to see those yeses and ones in the chat. You know, I want to make sure that this makes sense, right? T times DOTW equals AA is crucial. Okay. So now the third step, right, is going to be you have to find what activities are taking up most of your time, right? How many of you catch yourself doom scrolling, all right? Literally doom scrolling for what you call 5 minutes, and that turns into 1 to 3 hours of your life gone and to be forgotten, gone, right? How many of you find yourself spending countless hours procrastinating and selling yourself short? And I'm here to help you overcome those hurtful truths, because you don't have to spend all your time doom scrolling and procrastinating, because believe it or not, this is where people lose a lot of their time in current day-to-day. The average is about 16.5 hours, guys. Literally 60. Imagine 16 and a half hours of you literally doom scrolling every single week. Crazy work, y'all. Crazy work. Now, step 4 is going to be going over what I want to impart on you guys. You know, I want you to let your direction and framework do the heavy lifting for you. I'm introducing you guys to step 4, which is the north side of the time compass, which is called MT1, or mandatory time. Mandatory time is the difference between people who sustainably achieve their goals and people who burn out trying. Okay, this is where the activities that take up more than an hour, that are also mandatory every single day, they go, like sleep, work, eating, parenthood, entrepreneurship, nurses, police officers, firefighters, and civil workers, right? These are, you know, the type of things that have to happen no matter who we are, what walk of life we come from. And once you calculate this, I promise you everything else becomes a lot easier, okay? So once you figure out what tasks are mandatory in your life, you can know where the rest of your time is going and where the rest of your time is being spent, so we can reinvest it, okay? So you want to figure out which direction of your tasks are taking up the most time in your life. Are you spending most of your time in mandatory time, miscellaneous time, mystery time, or growth time? And how much time is it costing you to not have a direction for your time, right? So step number 6 is, now we get to where you need to know the amount of time you need to grow, right? Let's think about it, right? Let's think about a part-time job, right? That's only about 20 hours a week, right? Are your dreams, the things that you want to do in your life, worth part-time hours? Because if they're not, right, do you really want to achieve them? Especially now that you have the framework to do so. I just gave you the framework, right? What is a goal that you have in your life that you want to achieve, right? Because ultimately, if you take 2 hours a day, right, whether it's an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon, to work on that thing, whether it's building a business, you know, seeing family, working out, you know, spending more time with your children or your spouse, or whatever your goals are, you will get to them a lot quicker than you have been. And let's say you're working in a job, or you have a business and you're, you know, in a competitive market. I promise you, you're going to get to your goal twice as fast as someone who's not even spending an hour a day on their task. Even if they're spending an hour, if you're spending 2, that's 14 hours a week, right? If you take 2 hours a day times 7 days a week, that's 14 hours right there, right? You use the same formula that we used and went over earlier and apply it to every single thing in your life moving forward. Now, my total investment to learn and execute all of this was a grand total of $0 and 0 cents. but there was a massive time investment. Okay. Shout out to my guy Zero from Holes, you know, big up to him. But yeah, it was literally zero, right? And so I want to share this with you. This is one of my students, Vedran, who used these first few steps, and he was able to reclaim literally 500 hours of his life. Okay. We worked together over 8 months. You know, he's one of my students, my star pupils, and he is now crushing it, right? And so I'm literally going to share with you how to use these techniques and start any business, and more importantly, reclaim a minimum of 10 hours of your life back every single week. So make sure you stick around for secret number 2, because you're not going to want to miss that, right? And so most people, employees and entrepreneurs, think that you have to do it the hard way. AKA, most people believe there is only one way, right? Which is a few different ways, actually. First, it's the first one I call the hustle harder approach, right? The hustle harder approach has an upfront cost of burnout, stress, and 5 to 10 years of your life gone, right? The time frame is every single day, nonstop grind. And most people think the only way to get ahead is to work harder. Wake up earlier, sleep less, and squeeze more into the same 24 hours. But the truth is, you don't need to hustle harder. You need to design smarter, right? The second truth is that they think that they have to have a do-it-yourself mentality, right? I call this the do-it-yourself trap, which has an upfront cost of about 60 to 80 hours a week, okay, of busyness. You end up being busy doing nothing. And it's an immediate time, it's an indefinite time frame until you burn out or break down. Most people believe freedom means doing everything on their own, managing every task, every project, and even every crisis personally. But real freedom isn't in control. It's in delegation, automation, trust, right? Imparting the right people to do the things that they come on into your life to do. Simple as that, right? And then, yeah, love that, Shane. Absolutely, absolutely. Now, the hard way number 3, right? The wait for the right time myth, okay? Listen, guys, this has an upfront cost of years of missed opportunity. And its time frame is someday, right? That never actually comes. Most people say they'll start that business, write that book, or take that trip when things slow down. But things never slow down, y'all, right? What are some of the biggest goals within the next 3 to 6 months that you have? I'd love to see you guys put those in the chat, right? Now, let's imagine all that secret number 1 did was help you to reclaim 10 to 14 hours a week. I just helped you get back and reclaim 10 to 14 hours a week, right? That's just in secret number 1 alone. You know, so 2 things I want to hear from you guys. What are some of your biggest goals in the next 3 to 6 months? And I want you to put a yes in the chat if this is making sense so far. Do you feel that you've gotten the game thus far to go and reclaim 10 to 14 hours of your life every single week? Love that. Love that. Okay. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect. So, secret number 2, right? Before we get to that, I need you once again to take the link you got at the beginning of the training and send it to a group of people. Share it with 3 people that you're going to the top with anyone that you know will benefit from information like this, right? Because at the end of the day, right, people always say that it's lonely at the top, because when they learn the information that they are learning right now or just in their life, they don't share it, right? And they end up being alone, right? You know, I recently watched an interview by Elon Musk, right? And they asked him, the interviewer asked him, and if he felt alone, right? And his response to that was, you know, I don't think many people would want to be me, right? Most people think they might, but, you know, they wouldn't, right? Because he's lonely, right? He's lonely where he is, you know, and we think that, you know, it's such a glamorous thing and he's the richest person in the world and all of that. But when you are the only thing or the only person in your group of friends or in your, you know, group of cohorts and associates, etc., you end up being lonely. It's kind of difficult, right? And so I invite you to share this, you know, with 3 other people that you know you're going to the top with, right? Next, we're going to get into secret number 2, okay? This is going to be the 168-hour method on how to make this work for anyone to quit their 9 to 5 for free. If you're excited for that, drop a number 2 in the chat, right? Because the level of engagement that I get is going to dictate the level of information that I give you. So you guys got to keep the chat rolling. I need to see you guys keep the chat rolling, right? Because the difference between having time and having the ability to be time rich is not about having more time. I want to break that right now. It is not about having more time, okay? It is not about having the availability, right? It's not even about having less to do, okay? And you better believe it's not even about having more effort, right? People think that, oh, it's about having more time, more availability, having less to do, or even having more effort. Nope, it's not about that at all. And it's not even about having more money, y'all, right? It's not. It's about how you choose to show up to yourself, how you choose to show up for yourself, okay? That is the most important thing, period. That's what being time rich really is about. How are you choosing to be intentional and show up for yourself, okay? Now, I want to welcome you guys to the 1 week time compass. Here is where I'm going to be giving you an overview of mandatory time, miscellaneous time, growth time, and what they are and how much time they take, okay? So ultimately, we went over mandatory time at the top. Now on the east side, we're going to be going over miscellaneous time, right? This is the time that, calls for self-care. You got to shower, you got to shave, you got to socialize. This is the average amount of time that it takes. And then you have mystery time, which we briefly covered earlier. This is where you doom scroll, you death scroll. That's what I call it. Because honestly, every hour that you're wasting on your phone is bringing you closer to death and further away from your goals. Straight up like that. I'm not one to sugarcoat things, guys, because at the end of the day, this is how we show up to ourselves. And it's about intentionality, right? And then the next thing is gossip, right? I consider gossip to be anything that does not grow you. If you're investing time with people and energy and things that don't grow you, it's gossip, right? And then on the west side is your growth time, okay? We briefly went over that. And now, right, I just want to let you guys know, I'm a regular guy and I'm just like you, right? I had an idea one day and I was like, oh my God, I had an aha moment. I was like, I want to start a business and I want to increase my income. I want to increase my impact and my influence, right? So I started reaching out, right? And so how many people here feel the same way, right? Especially after hearing my story, right? I built and started Glockwork Records. I was managing artists and helping, small businesses, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, create businesses and scale their business with inner workings management. And I thought to myself, we're going to blow this up. We've got the talent, we've got the vision, we have the energy. We are going to blow this up, right? And so I started reaching out. I had that emotion. I was like fired up, and I started reaching out to, producers, promoters, videographers, friends, family, other creators, other business owners. And I found myself obsessing over, the smallest things like, the emails and the beat licenses and the mixings and the covers and the YouTube, if the YouTube thumbnail popped enough, and all of these things really didn't matter, y'all. They didn't matter. But then something shifted. I started to get logical, right? And then I had to be honest with myself. I wasn't running out of time. I was running out of growth time, right? I had no compass. I had no GT1, which is growth time, and not having that was hijacking. It was being hijacked. My growth time was being hijacked by my miscellaneous tasks that look productive but don't move the needle, y'all. I was pouring time and energy into things that made me feel busy but not better, right? Remember, busy doing nothing. That's literally how I felt, right? And so, lo and behold, right? I don't know about you, but nobody supported me the way that I thought I was going to be supported. Am I the only one standing on this island alone, or can anybody resonate, right? I want to, take a temp check. Let me know if you can resonate with that, right? When you're starting out something and no one gets it, right? You just feel like you're on an island alone, but you have this vision. You feel this fire burning inside you that it needs to get done by any means necessary, because that passion, right, is what's going to allow you to continue to reach out, to seek support, to reach out, to leverage community and the people around you, because when you're a visionary, that's what you need to do, right? And, yes, that's how it be sometimes, 100%, I get that, but that's not the way it needs to be, right? Because you know, once we're able to, again, right, I'll go back to the last piece, right, which is ultimately showing up for ourselves, and we know that we are the most important person in our life, it gets a lot easier, right? So instead of approaching my days one by one at a time, I started to look at the amount of hours in an overall week, right? And do you guys remember what that was? Does anybody know what the amount of hours that is in a typical week? I would love for somebody to drop it in the chat. Brownie points for the first person to drop it in the chat. Really? Come on, y'all. Okay, there it is. There it is. Shout out to you, Ariel. I see you. Right? And so, right, I was teaching a community of people about entrepreneurship one day, and this was the community I shared with you earlier. And someone, you know, they asked me how I was able to, you know, have so much time and run the businesses that I do. You know, this is me at Lost Lands here, you know, helping them. You know, that flyer that I shared with you earlier. This is me literally in a crowd of people of over about 70,000 people, right? With one of the most influential people in independent music at the time in the music business. And, you know, this is just an example of what being time rich looks like. And so they asked me that. They were like, you know, how are you able to do that, right? And, you know, some more examples of me being time rich here. This is literally, you know, me. I want to share this with y'all. This is literally me at Machu Picchu, right? In South America. You know, they asked me how I was able to travel around the world despite having 3 companies. I was able to get down to Machu Picchu, right? And one of the cool things about it, I just want to share this with y'all, is that there's actually, when you look at it, excuse me. Yeah, I want to show you, there's something really cool here. When you look at the image of the mountain, right? It's actually a face looking up at the sky. So you've got the chin right here, the nose and the eye. But yeah, you know, just wanted to share that with you, because when you see this monument, you realize how ancient and how ahead of this time this was. You know, this is also, you know, some more examples of what being time rich looks like. So this is me literally 4-wheeling through the mountains of Peru with the group of my time rich friends. You know, there's a whole gang of us. You know what I mean? This is, you know, before I started teaching this in the scale that I was, but teaching it in person, being able to travel the world with my time rich community and seeing what the rest of the world looks like, right? And then this is another video. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. You know, and so ultimately, you know, I want to share with you guys some testimonials. These are 2 of my students who have been able to take the time compass to really change their life, right? Lamont, who is a full-time business owner and entrepreneur, and Rhoda, who is a mother of 3 and has a hair company and works at the post office. They were literally able to take what I'm teaching them here today and run with it, take it to the moon, all right? Step 3, right? This is where I want to give you guys a pro tip, right? So if you guys want to put it in the chat, right? How many seconds are there in a minute, right? Remember that. How many seconds are there in a minute? First one to put in the chat. Perfect, right? 60 seconds, right? This is the smallest unit of measurement of time, right? Now, how many minutes are there in an hour, right? How many minutes are there in an hour? Show me what you guys got. Perfect. Yep, 60, right? 60 minutes. Now, how many hours are there in a day? How many hours are there in a day, guys? I want to see what you guys got. Exactly, 24 hours, right? Now, how many hours are there in a week? We just went over this. I want to make sure if you guys are still with me. We just went over this. Are you still guessing? Okay, perfect. 168. Exactly, right? And so we're scaling up from a week here. And I want to share with you guys, you know, this is Johnny Blaze, you know, who was one of my first clients when I implemented my techniques, right? Literally, right? Right now, next up, I'm going to be sharing with you guys, you know, how to literally use these techniques and start any business, okay? And more importantly, reclaim 14 hours of your life back. So make sure you stay locked in for Secret 3. So this is Johnny Blaze.
Shout out to Inner Workings Management. This girl, Johnny Blaze. Make sure you book with them ASAP.
Love. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So who here is excited? Let me see some yeses in the chat if you guys are excited to get to secret number 3, y'all. Let me see some 3s in the chat. Let me see some yeses in the chat, because I'm stoked. We about to get into the real meat and potatoes. I've been giving y'all so much game, you know. Shout out to y'all for being locked in here with me. But yeah, put a yes in the chat if you guys are excited for secret number 3. Perfect. Okay, so secret number 3, y'all. Secret number 3, right? You don't always have to do it without systems, right? Using AI and the time compass to reclaim 10 hours or more in a week. This is where I'm going to teach you how to use that to start a business, right? Because the successful entrepreneurs, the freedom seekers, the people living life on their own terms, they haven't discovered more hours in a day, y'all. We all rotate around the same sun. They've discovered something far more powerful, how to design systems that work for them instead of against them. You have to wait until you have more time before you start. That's nonsense, right? You do not have to do that. So a lot of people, right, when they first start, are trying to take control of their schedule. They tell themselves, hey, I just need a little bit more time, right, at first. Then I'll get organized. I'll start waking up early once things slow down. I'll build my business when work isn't so crazy. But here's the truth, right? You're never going to find more time. You have to design it, guys. I'm going to be giving you, again, the 3 life-changing techniques to start reclaiming your time right now. Before I do that, though, right, even if you weren't taking notes, if you don't take anything from this masterclass, this is the time where you'll need to take notes. Type yes in the chat if you have something to write with and take notes. Perfect. Okay. So welcome to the SMART method, right? The SMART method helps you make goals that actually work. So it's an acronym, right? Each letter in the SMART method stands for something important. The first is going to be S, right? Which is specific. You got to be clear about what you want, right? So when you think about it, right? Not, oh, I'll study more, or I'll study math for 30 minutes after, like, it's not like I'll study more. It's more of, I'll study for 30 minutes after school, right? Then you get M, which is measurable, right? You can count or check if it's done, right? 30 minutes. It's a measurable metric, right? Not, it's a lot. It's a lot is not a measurable metric, right? Then you have A, which is achievable. It's something you can do, right? You can't fly to the moon next week, but you can finish your homework, right? Then you have R, which is relevant. It matters to your bigger goal. Studying helps your grades, which help your future, which help you become time rich, right? And then you've got time, T, which is time bound. There's a deadline or time limit. So by Friday or by 1 week. So to give you an example, I will read 20 minutes every night this week before bed. That is a SMART goal. So this is example number 1, guys, right? Example number 2. This is called the Pomodoro technique. Yo, listen, when I learned this, y'all, this was a game changer for me, right? Pomodoro comes from that tomato-shaped timer on your mother's kitchen when you were a kid, when you were a child. And here's how it works. You pick one task, okay? You pick one task. You set a timer for 25 minutes, and you work only on that task. When the timer rings, you take a 5-minute break. You stretch, you get water, you move around, you get out of your chair, you do something else for 5 minutes. And now this is where the magic starts. Every 4 Pomodoros, right? And so if you think about it, you take 4 times 25 minutes, that's 100 minutes, right? You take a longer break, right? Of 15 to 30 minutes, right? Because what happens here is your brain, the cache of your brain allows you to work on the problems that you were working on for 25 minutes straight. And when you get back to that project later, you have clarity. You'd be surprised how it works. And it helps you focus by turning big jobs into small chunks. And you train your brain like a muscle. Focus hard, rest, repeat. Focus hard, rest, repeat. Okay? And don't be sneaky working during that 5 minutes, y'all. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because again, it all comes down to how you show up. And this is your relationship with you. No one's going to be looking over your shoulder, right? This is you versus you, guys. Okay? Now, example number 3. This is also one of my favorite examples. This is one of the tools that saved my life here. This is the eat the frog technique, right? And I've heard Jeff Bezos talk about this technique. And the idea comes from saying, if the first thing I do every morning is eat a live frog, nothing worse will happen to you during that day, right? Like if I work up, the first thing I do is eat a live frog. I got it. That's the hardest thing I'm gonna do all day, right? Don't worry though. No real frogs were harmed in the making of this entrepreneur or movie, right? Your frog is the hardest or most important task on your list of things to do that day, right? The one you usually avoid, right? So look at your to-do list, look at your tasks, which is number one. Find the one thing that you're least excited to do. That's your frog, right? Do that first, right? Once it's done, the rest of your day feels lighter and easier, okay? Now, you can literally use these 3 techniques I just taught you and put them in the chat GPT or any other LLM that you like to use and have them be your guiding examples on where your time is going, okay? So ultimately, my question to you is, who wants to reclaim 10 hours in under 3 minutes, right? Essentially using one of those 3 techniques that I just showed you to be able to reclaim your time. So which technique would you guys like me to do? I'll do a live screen share with you guys, right? And show you what that actually looks like. So who would want to see that? Type a yes in the chat if you want to see that. And I also want to see, want you to let me know which one of the techniques you would like to see. Absolutely. Okay. Which example? Do we want to do the SMART goal, the Pomodoro technique, or eating the frog? Which one of these 3? Eat the frog. Okay. We'll take a list of votes here. We got eat the frog. Okay. We got eat the frog again. Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do a little screen share with you guys here. And we're going to do this together, y'all. We're going to do this together. Together. Because what is community without us doing it together? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to be doing this with you guys here. All right. So let me know if you guys can see my chat GPT. Should be sharing it. Actually, there we go. Boom. Okay. All right. So give me a task that is just very difficult. Anybody in the chat. Give me one task that is the most difficult for you. All right, so I would hope when I get back to my other screen, you guys have some techniques or some things. Journaling. Okay, love that. Anybody else? But since journaling was the first one, we're going to do that one. So, and I agree with that. Journaling is difficult. All right. I'm excited to share this with you guys, right? So this is going to be the eat the frog method, right? So step 1, eat the frog, right? Journaling. And so it breaks down why, right? Strengthens focus and mindfulness, your foundation for all other work, clarifies goals and emotions, creates data for personal growth through your time compass and 168-hour lens. So journaling happens first. So journaling happens first thing in the day, right? Before checking your phone or doing reactive tasks, right? So that's going to be number 1, define your frog. And you've already done that, which is journaling. Number 2 is structure a day with Pomodoro blocks, right? So we'll use the first 25-minute block, right? And 5-minute breaks, just like we went over. So the first 25-minute block, right? Free write your thoughts, your emotions, your gratitude, your sleep reflections, and don't censor it, right? Create a goal. Your goal is clarity and emotional reset, right? So you're going to do this for 25 minutes, and then you're going to take a 5-minute break. Move, stretch, get some water, stand up, breathe. No phone, guys. No phone, right? Pomodoro 2, right? This is the second strategy, strategic reflection of answer guided prompts, right? What's my number one priority today? Okay. How can I show up as my best self? Identify today's single frog. And then you have your break your second break, number 5. Do a light activity, quick walk or sunlight exposure. One of my favorite things to do when I use the Pomodoro technique, I like to go outside, put my feet in the dirt and look up at the sun, straight up. Ground myself with the earth, because especially as an entrepreneur, I spend so much time behind the screen. It's important for me to reconnect with nature. Okay. And then the third Pomodoro technique, which is an action planning journal, right? Convert your insights into a simple 3-item today's list, log time blocks in your time compass or your planner. And then, you take a 15 to 20 minute break. So all of these can be done one by one or in succession of one another. So that means you could stack them, right? And after, let's say you've done all 3 of these, within 100 minutes or so, you take a break, 15 to 20 minutes, right? A mindfulness pause, right? Celebrate completion, no screens, you stretch, you breathe, you meditate, right? You spend time with you. And that's 1.5 hours total, right? An elite morning routine that grounds your day. Now, we've got a few steps for this, and I love this, right? Step 3 is upgrade your Pomodoro environment, right? You have, world-class journaling Pomodoros. And I'm not going to go through all of these. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to share this with you in the chat so that you can then go and use it, the same prompt, inside your ChatGPT or LLM, because I would love to get back to the education, but you guys can see how quick and how efficient this is. Drop a yes in the chat if this just blew you away. I gotta know. I need to know. Drop a yes in the chat if you're like, yo, that was some sauce. That was some real game right there. I need to see. Okay? Drop a yes in the chat if that's true for you. Absolutely. Okay, great. So I'm going to put this in the chat. You guys can access it inside your ChatGPT. Just open it right up. Okay. So that's how we went over. So now I want to introduce you to one of my students, Annie, right? Who after just 3 days started changing her whole life. Okay. She started changing her entire life. And she was a therapist at Georgia Tech. And she also has a balloon business, right? She was able to take one of my accelerator class and just start sprinting, right? With the information that I was able to teach her and that she was able to learn. All right. Now you have learned how to approach your gap, right? Let's do a little recap. You've learned how to approach your gap, reclaim your time and become time rich. You've learned how to make the best of your 168 hours with ease. And you've learned how to use systems and frameworks to reclaim your most valuable asset. Okay. Now let me ask you a question. How many of you feel like Denver just let out a hose of information on all of y'all? How many of you guys feel like that? Drop a yes in the chat if you feel like this guy. Absolutely. Yeah, no, for sure. Drop it. I need to see a couple more yeses. Because this was definitely a lot of game. Yep. Okay. For sure. So now I want to get into it. So you have 2 choices, right? You can go away with the 3 strategies under your belt, implement them on your own. And to be honest with you, that's definitely a viable option, right? That's what I did when I first got started in business, right? But I'm going to be honest with you. It took me about 10 years to figure all this information out and put it together in front of you. I didn't literally just showed you my 10-year journey, right? I just gave you all the game, and truly I did. So it might not take you 10 years. Maybe it'll take you 7 years, which is a lot better than 10 years. But keep in mind, there was a lot of pain, blood, sweat, tears, hard, sleepless, and lonely nights to get to this point, y'all. But maybe you only have 7 years instead of 10, and that's a lifesaver. If you can even save 3 or 4 years off this, it's life-changing information, right? So That's if you're somebody that has a little bit more time than money. Feel free to take that, take the time, and, go implement what I just taught you and take the game I gave you and go make a ton of money and then holla at me later. That's perfectly fine with me. But if you're someone that has a little bit more money than time and you want to implement what this would take, like all of this, right? You want to implement what it would take you to get to the next level. You want to implement what would take you 7 to 10 years and shrink that down to maybe 3 to 6 months. And you want to skip all the pain, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the hard, the sleepless and lonely nights. Let me ask you a few questions, right? Give me a yes in the chat if I delivered on my bold promise of teaching you to become time rich, quit your 9-to-5 and building a 7-figure business that lasts. Let me get a yes in the chat if I delivered on that big, bold, and definitely audacious promise. Let me know. I want to know. Absolutely. Right. Now, give me a yes in the chat if you feel like you got a lot closer, right, to your goal rather than further away from your goal just by being here today. Come on, guys. Let me see that chat fire up. I want to see that chat light up. Perfect. Okay. Now, give me a yes in the chat if I have your permission to share with you what I was talking about in the beginning, because I know that this is the best bet for you if you're going to be successful in becoming time rich and just being free. But if you don't want me to share the information, right, I'd like to honestly go give my mom a call and take a nap after, to be honest. I can close my laptop right now and do that because that's a responsibility that I have to get to today. This information has already changed my life. It has the potential to change yours. If you allow me to share it has the potential to change yours if you allow me to share it with you. But if not, we can stop right now. My life is going to be completely fine. Let me know. Do I have your permission? Perfect. Absolutely. Okay. So, like I said, these are foundational strategies, right? It's going to take me a lot longer than 30 minutes, to an hour to show you how I was able to reclaim over 20 hours a week of my life every single week. All right. So stick around a little bit longer. And I want to get into what allows me to make your life a lot easier. So stick around a little while and let me make your life a lot easier. Okay. So unlike most entrepreneurs, I've done this for large companies, teams, and professionals. This is literally one of my clients, Jacob. We were able, my team and I, with these very strategies, were able to scale his organization to negative to over $150,000 in just 6 months. Think about that, y'all. Put that in the context. What would your life look like if you were able to scale whatever it is that you're doing, right, to 150K a month? Excuse me, 150K over 6 months. What would your life look like? Crazy, right? Just imagine it. Put it into context. If my math is correct, what was that, 612? That's about $14,000 a month, y'all. If my math is correct, right? Just you do the math, right? So ultimately, I can show you the exact blueprint, which is what I've been doing, but I can show you the exact blueprint for my clients in my current business. And more importantly, I want to, right? Like what I teach and educate on actually works because, I also want to add, I have a real estate firm and I have a real estate company and I want to show you, I want you to make a decision from the inside of the house, right? And so who wants to get an exclusive sneak peek into the Time Shifters community? Drop a yes in the chat if you want a sneak peek of what inside of what the Time Shifters community looks like. I need a drum roll, please. Let me know. Please. Also, I see some of you are like messaging me privately. Okay, so I see that. Love that. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present to you Time Shifters Academy, right? the last time management community you will ever need, right? This is where we uncover the secrets to reclaim your life, quit the 9 to 5, and build a business that runs itself, right? This is where I'm going to be teaching you how to build that 7-figure business, quit your 9 to 5, become time rich. And it's all documented, top to bottom, everything that I've done and everything that I do. Okay. So what you get is the last time management community, right? You get the time compass framework course, a proven time management system. This is where I break down everything that I use at scale to live a time rich life. Okay. You get the time shifters exclusive. This is where I show you, right, how to go from being time poor to time rich using the exact steps, tools, and strategies outlined in this masterclass. It'll be everything you need, top to bottom, right? You'll never need to go anywhere else again, all right? And this is what the inside of it looks like. And full transparency, guys, right? This is a time shifters exclusive, right? Just to be transparent, just for the community itself, we sell this portion alone for $1,000, and these are multiple screenshots of students paying me, and multiple screenshots of payments, and students paying me $1,000 alone just for this, right? Just full transparency, because I like to be transparent. I like to keep it 100 with people. All right. So on top of the course, right, we know that you guys are gonna have a ton of questions, because not only are you going to be able to be learning a lot, but you're going to be getting a lot of information, right? And so now I don't want you to think that this is just some course, right? This is not me giving you a course and telling you to go do it by yourself, right? This is where you're actually going to have weekly calls with myself and other time shifters that have already implemented this information and are absolutely crushing it as well. You see how we're doing this call right now, and there's a few of us in here, and you have to be taken off mute to ask questions. On our weekly calls, you'll be able to come off mute on your own and ask all the questions that you guys need. Okay. Next is this is what this will look like, right? It'll be in a group setting just like this, and you'll be able to come off mute and ask me whatever burning question that you have with whatever issue you're having. And again, you'll be able to be in the community with other time shifters. And these are some more screenshots of our weekly time shifter calls, and what they look like, and they are so impactful. So now you'll be getting the time compass course, which is valued at $5,500. You'll be getting the weekly time shifters expert calls, which is valued at $2,200, which is a total value of $7,777. Okay. Now, on top of the course and the calls, you'll also be getting our exclusive time shifters toolkit, right? This toolkit, man, I cooked on this toolkit. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is a toolkit which has every tool that I've used in the past 10 years of my journey as an entrepreneur. And keep in mind, guys, I update it quarterly. Okay. You have 24-hour access to this, right? This toolkit is curated as an evergreen resource to support every stage of the entrepreneurial journey, from day-to-day dreamers launching their first idea to seasoned founders within 10 to 20 years of experience. It brings together timeless books, modern tools, essential systems, and proven strategies that help solve real-world business problems, spark innovation, and support personal development. Whether you're building your first brand, scaling a media company, or refining your leadership style, after 2 decades of business, this toolkit meets you where you are and grows with you as your vision expands. And like I said, I update this quarterly. So I'll just kind of give you a brief overview of what's inside of it. So we've got books, right? We've got, let me just share this with you. There you go. You guys can see that perfectly fine there. There's, marketing tools in here. Like when I recorded this video, it is pretty long, but ultimately, this is what you're going to be getting, right? You have access to the entrepreneurs time shifters toolkit, right? Everything that helps with productivity, marketing, networking, tools, like everything that I literally use in my day-to-day life. Okay. So you get the time shifters toolkit. Then now, last but certainly, most definitely not least, you'll be getting access to the timekeeper's journal and a complimentary time assessment with myself, right? This timekeeper's journal is your personal 12-week roadmap to reclaim control of your 168 hours. Each page helps you break down your days into clear time blocks, showing you exactly where your energy is going and how to realign it with your purpose using the time-rich categories: mandatory time, miscellaneous time, mystery time, growth time. You'll learn to separate what drains your time from what multiplies it. This isn't just a planner, it's a mirror, right? A tool that helps you see how your habits, your routines, and distractions shape your life 1 hour at a time. When you track your time with intention, you stop living by the clock and you start living by your compass, okay? Now, this assessment that I'm sharing with you guys, right, is what allowed me to take this business from negative $17,000 in cash flow to $102,000 positive cash flow in 6 months, okay? I just want to show you some receipts here because I like receipts, right? They came to me when they were not in a good place. If you can see my screen, y'all, this was a year ago, okay? Look at this. They're negative $17,000 in revenue right now, y'all. Crazy work. Crazy work. Can you imagine being $17,000 in debt, right? This is literally 6 weeks later. They are up 10%. They're still in negative, right? But this is 6 weeks later, right? They're currently at negative $15,000, okay, in net income. It's an increase by 10%, but you're still negative. Crazy. Now, this is 10 weeks later, y'all. This is 10 weeks later. I still get blown away looking at it, okay? They are up 465%. Look at that. They are positively cash flowing $56,000 a month right now. $56,000 a month, right? Now, fast forward, after implementing our systems, right, we were able to revamp their systems and they started using our strategies, right, that we use inside the Time Shifters community, and they stabilized around 13%, which was a net increase of $120,000 over a 6-month period. Like I said, I just like to show receipts, right? Like, we live in a show me, world. I like to show receipts, right? And so for me, receipts are absolutely incredible. So on top of, the Time Compass framework, the weekly calls, the Time Shifters toolkit, and the Timekeepers tracking journal, right? This is a grand total value of $11,111, right? You'll be getting, like I said, the Time Compass framework course, the weekly Time Shifters call, the Time Shifters toolkit, and the Time Shifters journal, right? But ultimately, one of the things I want to share with you guys, right? This by itself usually would be about $5,555. But the good news, right? I want to share three things with you guys. I have good news, I've got great news, and I've got bad news, okay? Remember how we talked about, in the beginning of the masterclass, I said that, my offer would probably be around $5,000. Well, the good news is, first off, somebody put good news in the chat. I want to make sure y'all still tapped in with me because I just shared you guys a bunch of information. Somebody put good news in the chat. I want to see who's really locked in. Let me see who's got that good news in the chat. Awesome, right? So, like I said, remember how we talked about in the beginning, right? The good news is that it's not going to be 5K, right? The good news, it's not even going to be 4K. The good news, it's not even going to be 3K. The good news is that my mentor always told me that you have to reward people that take fast action, okay? You have to reward people that take fast action, right? And ultimately, the good news is that we have a fast action price on this for those that take action today. And that price is $26.26 in lieu of 2026. That's about to come up, right? The good news is that it's not going to be 11K, it's not going to be 5K, it's not going to be 4K, it's going to be 2026. That's an average, right? This, like I said, this usually goes for $5,500. That's an average of $3,000 in savings. That's insane, right? So somebody put good news in the chat if this is crazy. I just want to make sure that I'm talking to the right people. Like somebody put good news in the chat. I want to see that. Like this is pretty crazy, right? To me, this is some ish right here. Okay. Now keep in mind, right? I told you that we also have great news and we have bad news, right? So the great news is that my mentor told me that success loves speed, right? Success loves speed and fortune favors the fast, right? So it was put on my heart for this masterclass to reward fast action, right? I'm just now, bringing in people into my community. and I closed the doors after a specific amount of time. So it was put on my heart to reward fast action, right? So he told me that you have to make your offers and your community irresistible. So I have a masterclass only special where we're going to be knocking off another $100 to make this 25-25. But that's only for those of you that jump on and tap in today, right? That's just for today. Now, that's the great news, right? Someone put great news in the chat, because unfortunately this leads me to the bad news. So somebody put great news in the chat. Need to make sure y'all are still tapped in with me. All right, we got a couple of those. Okay, got you, right? So now, because the level of value that we're giving in here, especially including the time assessments, we have a small team to where we cannot take on hundreds and hundreds of people at a time, right? Because we're doing custom audits and time assessment and things of that nature for people, right? This is only going to be done, right? The bad news is this is only going to be for the next 20 or so people that join our community, right? We're not looking to take on hundreds and hundreds of people, right? Like, that's not the goal here, right? Like, for me, living with intention and just being who I am, my goal is to be able to share this with people and have them run with it, And so I'm going to reward the first 5 people that jump in, right, with a time-rich private strategy session and access to the time-rich beta app, right? This app, y'all, is gonna blow y'all out of the park. Like, when the beta is ready, y'all are not ready. Like, I'm telling you, like, it's gonna blow you guys out of the park. My team and I have been absolutely working hard on this. We've been getting to it so we can make sure that you guys can reclaim your life and just live more intentional lives, right? And so for the first 5 people that join, you're gonna be getting a time-rich private strategy session and access to the time-rich beta app, okay? So I'm going to be dropping the link in the chat, right? I want you guys to, drop that great news in the chat. I want to see some more great news in the chat. So let me see a couple of more of those, right? So I'm going to be dropping the link in the chat in 5. Now, I'm not even going to do the countdown yet until I see some more great news in the chat, because I just gave y'all the great news, right? I gave y'all the good news. I gave y'all the bad news. Let me know that you guys are still locked in, right? Let me know. Love it. Okay, love it. See them rolling in. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The link is in the chat, y'all. The link is in the chat. All right. So, I want to make sure you guys, right, like, when you take action today, right, and you don't feel like you got your money's worth, we'll refund you in full, right? Which I would like you to keep in mind is our money back guarantee. If you take action today and you don't feel like you got your money's worth, we will refund you in full, okay? Completely in full. And I want you guys to keep that in mind, right? In full. Now, all that we require is, 1, you complete the course, okay? 2, you implement the information. 3, you share with an accountability buddy, right? You share this with an accountability buddy, right? Because ultimately, when you're going through something life-changing, you don't want to go through it on your own, right? And those are the only requirements. You complete the course, you implement the info, and you share it with an accountability buddy, right? Now, the great thing is that tonight, the masterclass price is only $25.25. It looks like few of you got started. Awesome. So we've only got about, let's see here, 18 spots left. Shout out to you guys that got started here. Now, but if you're someone that needs flexible payment option, that's cool too, because fortunately, a lot of you guys are going to be able to hop into the community without having to come out of cash out of pocket, right? So if you need flexible payment options, we have partnered with a company that's called Fan Basis. And what they do is they literally finance our students' education to our community, because they know the type of work and results that we're getting for our students and the impact that we're having on our community. So the cool thing is that it's not even a hard pull on your credit. It's a soft pull on your credit just to see if you get approved, right? And so remember that in the beginning when we started earlier, I said I have a $500 gift for you. This is how you get a hold of that gift. All you have to do is apply, and they let you know right on the spot, and you have nothing to lose. The best possible outcome is that you get approved for financing, and a lot of times it's more than $500, and then you join the community. The worst outcome is you don't get approved and you still get the free gift worth $500 plus. And you can go ahead and jump to the link and scroll down the link that I dropped in the chat, and scroll down the flexible payment options, and you're going to be able to use Klarna, Cash App, Afterpay, or Zip. Or you can be time rich, go ahead and jump in with your debit or credit card information and just use the regular payment portal, right? I want you guys to keep in mind, this is a write-off because this is education for you and information for the business that you're investing in the business. So keep that in mind, right? Come next year when, right now it really is tax season, but come next year when you guys are doing your taxes, this is a write-off, okay? So who here is thinking, but Denver, what if I'm not an entrepreneur or don't have a business? What does all this have to do with me, right? Well, I'm going to break that down for you, right? Like, who here is thinking that, right? This works for not only just employees, right? It works for anyone that has issues with time management, right? It works for all parents, entrepreneurs, civil workers, right? It works for anyone who has no experience, right? It also works for everyone that can give attention to intention, right? Just being intentional, right? Think about how many of you guys are still here, right? Because you want to be intentional with your life, right? You want to show up and just live a more intentional life, right? Think about that. Just put that into context real quick. I'm gonna pause while you guys process that, right? This also comes down to the real question. The real question is, if all this did was save you from burning another $11,000 on doing the same thing that you've been doing, would it be worth it? Right? If all this did was allow you, I just want to see by a show of hands, right? Like if all it did was save you $11,000 from doing the same thing that you've been doing, right? Would it be worth it, right? What if you could reclaim your time and actually make time to grow your brand, your business, your service, and just expand on that dream that you've had for however long that you've had it, right? Like, I want to see that in by show of hands in the chat, right? Like, how many of you feel like this would be worth it? Right? So, moving on, right? If all this did was allow you to reclaim your time, follow your dreams, right? Would it be worth it, right? You're the best kept secret in your city, but no one knows what you do because you just don't have the time to get out there and market yourself, right? Like, no one knows that, right? If all this did was, allow you to reclaim your time and follow your dreams, would it be worth 11K, right? If all this did was save you from wasting countless hours listening to bad information, right? Would it be worth 11K? A lot of you are going on YouTube, Google, Pinterest, and all these other places, but then you're still in the same position day after day. Would it be worth it? Right? You got to ask yourself these questions, right? If all this did was do those things for you, would it be worth it, right? Because a lot of you are working off old ways with no intention, no direction, and outdated frameworks that do not work. That's just what it comes down to, that do not work, okay? We had two choices, right? I had two choices when I actually priced this out. I could go as cheap as possible and try to sell a ton of people, but that wouldn't really incentivize me to stack the value that much. I'm just being honest with you, right? The second option was I could require a higher investment, but in exchange, we could devote more time and our resources to help guarantee your success, right? That's really what it comes down to. Does that make sense? Somebody put yes in the chat if that makes sense. Awesome. Okay. So the real question is, what's one system worth, right? Like a really successful system, right? What's one system worth to you? Okay. This is actually one of my newest students who just joined the community Saturday. He just joined the community Saturday, and he changed his life overnight. So I just want to show you guys this testimonial.
everyone. My name is Jonathan Chapman, owner of a commercial cleaning company. Been for about 6-7 years now. Currently transitioning into wealth management full time. That's what I want to be. But I'm really here for it. Give a big shout out and testimony to Denver and this time compass. He sat down with me one night, we're business partner. He sat down, shared with me. He worked this out, put this time compass, did his thing, did his magic, and it just showed me a huge awareness, a wake up call as far as the kind of time that I actually had to get more stuff done. And when I thought I was actually working hard, I wasn't. No, for me personally, I think I had like 16 hours of BS time, which was it hurt because it was like, it was like, okay, Dan, you call yourself busy, you don't like lazy people, but these are some lazy numbers. And so it was exciting at the same, but overall it was exciting. It was a breakthrough. So ever since then, the awareness alone, I would recommend people just get the product because that alone, if you just get with that and don't do nothing else, it's gonna help you just get your time and do things better. And so I would reach out to him and just pretty much just say, like, definitely worth your time, literally. They appreciate you, Denver. Allow him putting that time to sit down and show me where I need to work on just to make me a better and efficient person. And also as a parent, that was another one. Being a parent, so it's not just for business owners, entrepreneurs, but also as a parent. Like, it just shows you where you really could do better as a human being while we're still out here on this planet. So once again, my name is Jonathan. Appreciate you, Denver. You allowing me to see your product and share with me to help me to become a better person.
I love that. Love that. Love that. So, like, what's 10 hours worth to you, right? One successful week, right? So again, just being transparent with you, that's why people are willing to send us, $1,000, $1,500, $3,500, $7,000 for this, because it, like, even at $10,000, this would be an amazing, even like 10,000, even at $22,000, this would be an amazing deal, right? So for the next couple of folks, this is going to be, 25, but again, at $22,000, this would be an amazing deal, guys, right? Because ultimately the idea is just to share this with you so you can live a more intentional life, right? So you can see that, why this would be worth $22,000, right? So for the next 10 people that hop in, this is going to be, at $25. We're not keeping this price at this point after. It is definitely going to be going up. Like I said, I like to keep my groups and my enrollment to a very intentional group of people so I can give everyone the information that they need to be able to get the most impact, right? So now you have two choices, right? You go down the road of proven failure, or you go down the road of proven success. Because let's be honest, right? If you're here today and you're here right now, it's because you've been doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And I'm pretty sure we all know what that definition is, right? The definition is insanity, right? So you can keep doing what you've been doing and keep getting what you've been getting, because what you have in your life right now is a direct correlation to the amount of information that you have in front of you right now, okay? Or you can go down the road of proven success with someone that's been where you want to go, done what you want to do, has an A to Z step-by-step formula that you can follow so that there's no more guesswork, right? What does this opportunity cost to not go down the road of proven success? I want to ask you guys that, right? Now, to be the best, right? Put in the chat what all these people have in common. I want to see if you guys, I want to do a little temp check with you, right? What do all these people have in common? Right? I want to see real quick. We got, Kobe, Michael Jordan, Serena and Venus Williams. What do they have in common, y'all? I want to hear from the chat. I know somebody's got to know. Come on now. Okay, they didn't quit. I like that. I like that. They're strong. I like that. I like that. Okay. Anybody else? I love that, though. They are strong and they definitely did not quit, for sure. That is for sure. Okay, perfect. Yep. So, a lot of people say grit, determination. They're strong. They didn't quit. But let's think about this, right? Yeah, like, of course, but that's not what they all have in common, right? What they all have in common is they all had a coach. Kobe's was Del Harris, right? Michael Jordan's was Phil Jackson, right? Ricky Massey was Venus and Serena Williams, right? So why is it that the greatest of all time needed a coach? Why do we think Hold on, y'all. Be careful with the screen, right? So why do we think that the greatest of all time needed a coach? Why do we think that we don't need to be a coach to be time rich, right? Why do we think that, right? Like, think about it. Why do we think we can be the greatest of all time and not have a coach in whatever it is that we do, right? Why do you think without a coach you can become time rich? It doesn't make sense, right? Another hard thing that I was thinking about is how hard it is to win an NBA championship, right? Like how hard it is, to play at the highest level, right? Ain't no way without a coach, right? And so the other day I was thinking to myself, I was randomly thinking to myself after I saw one of my mentors speak about it, right? At the top of Mount Everest, there was always multiple people, right? Whenever I saw pictures of people at the top, it just showed me that it takes a community, a strong group of people with a similar goal to climb the mountain of success. No one is self-made, right? You have to be there with the community to get to the top the fastest, right? Every time I seen an image, I seen a group of people, right? Here's a key takeaway for you guys. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? So if you want to join the best time management and mindset community on the planet, click the link in the chat and become an exclusive member, right? Now, I was thinking to myself the other day, I wonder if it's even possible for you to climb without a guide or without a coach, right? And the answer will shock you guys. When I read this, I was like, yo, this is pretty crazy, right? It's impossible for you to do so. And if you fall, they actually charge you an ice fall doctor's fee. So they will literally charge you to mend your ropes and ladders to help you up if you fall, right? And that just let me know that as you climb the mountain of success, inevitably you're going to make mistakes. Inevitably, you're going to waste time and money, but it's going to cost you when you're climbing the mountain of success. It's going to be an investment one way or another, whether it's your time trying to figure it out or your money trying to figure it out or your time and your money investing into yourself with someone that has a proven framework, right? And that reminded me of something that I saw in the Small Business Administration website, right? Because I spend a lot of time on there. I just be nerding out, where over 50% of small businesses fail in the first year, right? And 95% of them fail in the first 5 years. Crazy to me, blew my mind, right? So you have a better chance of climbing Mount Everest and surviving than you do at becoming an entrepreneur that's still here in a year, let alone 5 years without a coach. Just the facts, guys. I'm just showing you the facts, right? So if you're looking for a coach, a mentor, an educator, and you enjoy my teaching style, join the Time Shifters Academy right now by clicking the link in the chat, okay? Now, the real question is of your time to check this out, right? Which if it does even half of what I've claimed today, right, it will pay for itself in dividends because your time is priceless, right? Like, the real question is it worth investing into yourself to change your life forever? Forever, y'all, forever, right? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. That's what I always say, right? Let's be honest here, right? How many of you feel like you've already wasted $2,500 worth of your time trying to figure this out of yourself, right? It's like I said, it's not a matter of if you're going to pay for a community, it's a matter of when. It's not a matter of when you're going, if you're going to pay for a coach, it's a matter of when. And a lot of you, right, have already paid it multiple times over and over and over again. But the only thing that you didn't get was the access to the information you have already paid for with the mistakes that you have made in the time that you've wasted in excess of $2,500. So the question is, do you want to continue paying $2,500 of your time, your hard-earned money, and never get access to the information? Or do you want to make a one-time investment today so you no longer have to have the tax of ignorance and not knowing, right? And how many of you think in the future, if you go try this by yourself, inevitably you're going to make mistakes and inevitably you're going to waste more time, right? With the advent of AI, y'all don't have the time to waste. We do not have the time to waste, right? So no matter what, you've either already wasted countless hours and $2,500, or you're going to waste countless hours or $2,500 if you don't figure out how to become time rich. And the way to do that today is by investing in yourself So you no longer have to make those mistakes. No matter what, you're going to waste the time and the money trying to implement this on your own. So you might as well invest it to get the information that you are so desiring to become time rich. Okay. So I'm going to be putting the link is in the chat. It's only going to be in the chat for the next half an hour. Feel free to follow me on Instagram at Mindset Diplomat and Mind Management Academy. I really appreciate you guys, sticking the last 2 hours out with me. I am honored to have shared this information with you, and we can get into the Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead. If you guys want to raise your hand, or if you want to come off a mute, would love to, take your guys' question one by one and, just hear from you guys. All right. So I appreciate you guys rocking with me. Feel free to raise your hand, and we can get you guys to come off a mute here. Now, feel free to raise your hand, guys, if you have any questions. Like I said, I'll bring you off of mute. Or you can drop your questions in the chat as well. And, I can bring you off of mute to ask it. Okay, so let's see here. All right, so here, I'll bring you off of mute, Ariel. Feel free to come off of mute. All right, hello. Can you hear me? I can't hear you for some reason. 1 second, let's see. Ariel, I think you're still muted. Feel free to come off mute to ask your question. Oh, okay. Got you. No problem. So our weekly calls are going to be right now Tuesdays at 7 p.m. We're going to be doing these master classes weekly, like in this setting here, on Thursdays at 7 p.m. So we have our time rich Thursdays, which is what you guys are on right now, and then we have our time rich Tuesdays, which is our exclusive community where we'll be having our group sessions together. Absolutely. You are very welcome, Shane. It's my pleasure. I'm glad, if anybody wants to drop any nuggets that they got in the chat, I always love hearing from, the people that I teach and that I educate, what their key takeaways from, because, the goal here for me is making sure that I can have an impact on your life and how you choose to show up in your life, and, reclaiming your time, right? Because that is our most valuable asset, period, Yeah, I love that. I love that. I learned how much time I doom scroll. Yeah, no, listen, Ariel, it's not just you, believe it or not, right? It's so many of us. We spend so much time, doom scrolling. For me, it's actually less than, a couple of hours a week, right? Like for me, I make sure that it's like, if I do it, it's like right after I post something. It might be like, as I'm waiting for like, a piece of content to upload or something like that. You know what I mean? But it's not worth it. You know what I mean? Anybody else have any questions that they want to put in the chat, or they want to come off mute to ask? I will, drop the request button there for you to come off of mute. And you guys can ask anything that you would like, or have any key takeaways. I'll give you guys a few minutes here. All right, guys. So, we are, like I said, we are on the Q&A section. If you guys don't have any other questions, hopefully I will see you guys next week. Like I said, we'll be doing these master classes weekly. And, feel free to invite any friends, any partners, family, because again, my number one goal here, I didn't share this with you guys, but my number one goal is to help folks to reclaim 1 million hours of their time. Okay. That is my goal. Right now, we are moving and inching closer and closer to that goal every single week, But I really appreciate you guys tapping in with me, locking in with me, for the past 2 hours of your life. And I hope that I was really able to impart upon you just how to show up more intentionally, right? Like how to give more attention to intention. All right. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for your time. And I will be seeing you guys next week, hopefully. All right. See you guys later. Ciao. Y'all. Oh, y'all still live. What's up? What's up? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Love it, love it, love it. That's a fact. That's a fact. I got you. If you need a link, feel free to send me a message and I got you. Money isn't everything, but it counts more. Yeah, it definitely doesn't count more than anything. But ultimately, I'll drop you that link. Let's see here. I got you, buddy. I got you. All right, y'all. Have a wonderful night. It was a pleasure tapping in with y'all. All right. Peace.